We're here. We made it. Our guest today is Art Proctor, native of Canada. Art has been busy with many things, including that in the technology sector. We're looking forward to having a discussion with Art today. Let's chop wood. Art, welcome to the show.
Well, welcome and thank you very much for inviting me.
Who is Art Proctor?
Well, Art Proctor is a Afro-Métis based out of Mohens's Treaty 7 territory, also known as Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I am a multi-hyphenated individual who works at the intersection of art and technology. I have been anything from a performer, a stage manager in arts administration, and then a technologist for the last 20, 30 years. My interests lie specifically in inclusion, diversity, and equity from a cultural point of view of seeing people of color across the sector be acknowledged and promoted. My current interest is streaming, immersive media. That's pretty much it.
On the subject of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're starting to see great intersection between this narrative and the technology sector, with the need and the expansion of expression, with the need for more integrated culture into technology itself. What are you seeing in Canada?
It is starting to happen, and it's starting to be a little more integrated, a little bit more stepped up, especially with creations and promotions of new organizations and new initiatives. IPAC, the Indigenous People Action Committee, who are promoting Indigenous youth and technology, what they're doing there. IndigenX, which is a professional cohort that teams and collaborates with people from around Canada, but also global Indigenous community. There's been 3 cohorts, and I've been a part of 2 of those. There's the Black kind of like film office. There's the Black Business Initiative, and there is Creative Empowered, which is a sort of art meets tech group that houses the people of color kind of community in Canada, specifically in the creative industries, but reaches out and touches tech because, as you know, technology touches every aspect of our life now. Did that answer the question?
Certainly. What does technology look like today in Canada as we find ourselves still here in a pandemic that has not left us, and we find ourselves in this remote distribution environment when it comes to the way that we work, the way that we communicate, which is different in many ways than it was prior to this pandemic. What is Canada as a whole, from what you're seeing in Calgary and elsewhere, what is Canada looking like right now in technology today?
Well, that's a broad question, and seeing as Canada is the 2nd largest landmass in the world with 39 million people, I could not speak to Canada as a whole, but I can speak to my community and my understanding of what's happening in my area, although I have a little knowledge of the global perspective. I think it'd be more fair for me to talk to what I actually know. And what I actually know is Calgary, Alberta, and possibly British Columbia. And so with that, I'd say that there has been, and this is a fancy word, but it's not really fancy. It's been around for a while. It's anybody in the know knows. In the last year or two, we have really gone through a digital transformation. And that digital transformation was kicked in the butt as a catalyst because of the pandemic. And I know personally, in the first couple of months of the lockdown in Canada, per se, I don't know what happens in the States, there were people trying their best to figure out how to get online, how to actually maneuver within this world. And I was lucky enough and privileged enough last year to, with a partner of mine, given a grant by the Canada Council of the Arts to actually explore digital transformation of arts and culture in Alberta. And we actually had a 3-month survey, stakeholder engagement, meetings, conversations, and surveys, figuring out where people are and how they are dealing with it and how they are putting steps in place to actually implement that, or just reassessing who they are as individuals, and does digital transformation affect them. It was a very interesting project, and I learned some things that I didn't know, but our thesis going in was proven in spades that people are really not as hip to the jibe as I thought they were. And although there's sectors and segments and people in Calgary, Edmonton, and Alberta that are very forward thinking, that are very world class in what they're doing and their projects and their services, some of them are so dinosaur thinking that they still don't understand the concept of using digital strategies, digital tools, digital applications to assist them to bridge gaps and or buttress what they're doing, instead of thinking that robots are coming to steal their jobs.
Indeed. Let's talk about Alberta. Let's drill down on that. Let's lean in. What prevailing technologies do you see, Art? Because I hear a lot what's happening all throughout Canada, and I do hear a lot what's happening in Alberta. You're on the ground. What are you seeing today?
In Calgary, it is a budding and growing tech sector. It betrays the traditional industry that is Alberta, because Alberta is considered Little Texas and Calgary is considered Little Houston. We are technically the oil capital of Canada, and there is a busload of money here still, regardless of the economic downturn and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that it's only 30%. So if you actually have the 100% of Alberta, or specifically Calgary, 30% is still that oil and gas kind of concept mindset. There is a growing sector of manufacturing, technology, clean energy, immersive media. Film is blowing up in Calgary right now, which is actually super cool, but weird at the same time. The VR and AR is actually becoming quite a new and growing industry. And surprisingly, but not surprisingly, blockchain technology and AI is huge in Calgary and Edmonton.
Art, you've always struck me as someone that has a deep sense of community and someone that brings people together from different backgrounds. This I do know of you. Help our audience to understand, what does community look like in Calgary?
I would say Calgary as a whole, we're very community minded, and actually have been for as long as I lived here, and I've lived here 5 times in my life. And so, as weird as it sounds, Calgary is my home, although I've actually lived other places. I was born here, but was raised all across Canada and the States. I just say that to give you a global perspective of my understanding of different places and different ecosystems of that kind of concept. Calgary's community standards are amazing. We have one of the highest per capita volunteerisms in Canada. When actually, the crap hits the fan, regardless of your political maneuverings, ideas, or whatever, at the core, people will actually galvanize and come together. I would say a great example of this was 2013, when we actually had an epic, once in 100-year flood that actually was global news. The city was devastated. Downtown and central was devastated. It was like on the daily news nationally for weeks. I was living and working between Calgary and Edmonton. Now, Calgary and Edmonton is 3 hours away. So that was a very interesting kind of like dilemma. I moved to Calgary back to work for my film union as the dispatcher. And literally for the first month of my new job, I just literally tracked all the members that were affected by the flood and how we could assist them. We did an actual interactive map of all the areas of Calgary, and then I kind of like looked at that in regards to where our members were, and then make a short list of the most affected, and then reach out to them and give them help. Our international, which is based out of New York, actually came on board and said, okay, what do we need? How do we need? How much money do you need? What resources do you need? Whatever, because we are a very community minded in that way, that we help each other. All the locals will help each other if there is need. And so I'd say Calgary's huge for that. We're most famous in Calgary for the Calgary Stampede, which is literally just a 10-day party. It's the richest rodeo in the world, and but the thing is, Calgary has this perception of being kind of oil and gas cowboys and all that kind of stuff, but we surprisingly, and this, I would like to get this narrative out there, that it is an extremely diverse city with 200 or 300 different nationalities and cultures, multiple languages. And we need to tell a better story of that, because we are not just rural farm, and if I may be so blunt, white.
Thank you for sharing that, Art. What is Art Proctor working on today?
Art Proctor is working on today, and has been off and on for the last little while. I've been involved with 2 or 3 startups. The first one that I worked on about 3 or 4 years ago was one called Upstart.io, which was one of the very first online art markets backed and built by blockchain, utilizing a smart contract to reconcile physical assets in a digital world. And as I speak to you, I still am, and this could be controversial, one of the very first artists to actually have their work uploaded with a digital certificate of authenticity into the blockchain technology 2 years before Beeple actually sold his NFT at Christie's for $65 million, which they're saying that technically he was the first person on the planet to actually do that. And I'm calling BS on that, because he's not. And I have the documentation to prove it.
Tell me about the other startups, Art. Unless you're in stealth, of course. Go ahead.
Okay. I have worked and consulted with several other kind of like immersive media VR related companies. I've done some consulting for VisWorks, Red Iron Labs, Kanaki Studios. We did a kind of like a test pilot project with a magazine where we augmented their covers and their main story. That was a super cool project. We did about 4 episodes of that. And then now I am working with a colleague of mine based outside of Seattle, where we're going to do an interactive graphic novel. We're developing an interactive graphic novel. It's in its baby steps, but I think in 6 months to a year, the project will probably be up and going. It's a side project. We're not putting all our attention to it, but it's just going to pick it away. It's like, oh, okay, this little aspect. Okay, let's work on that. Put it to the side, and then just do that iterative kind of startup kind of concept, get the MVP up and going, and then, just work it. Another one that I am developing with a couple of colleagues along the streaming aspect is to do a series of OTT or streaming platform channels, one with a focus on biz tech, specifically to Alberta at the moment, but we're open to a broader audience and a broader kind of like perspective. I actually am very interested in the fashion tech and kind of like makeup concept, because that's massively huge. And I know several people in town and in Alberta, BC, Montreal, and LA area that are doing some really neat things in that world. I have a colleague of mine that she jokingly said, "Why didn't you tell me this 3 years ago?" She was working for a fashion tech company that she founded with a couple of colleagues. She's exited that program now and working on a med tech program, which is completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. But she was going, "That's a good idea. Why didn't you tell me this 3 years ago?" I thought that was pretty funny. And so, yeah, I think those are the things that I'm working on and interested in at the moment.
Art, give me your expanded thoughts on blockchain and NFT today.
I say that blockchain is agnostic, and blockchain can and will change our day-to-day existence. It's already being seen in Estonia with e-Estonia concept. They have literally used the technology for governance, for healthcare, for citizen engagement, for all that kind of stuff. I could see this coming down the pike, utilizing it for voting, utilizing it for ID, sovereignty, digital sovereignty, which is really, really, really needed, especially in what's been happening in the last year. I believe that NFTs on a level is a little bit trendy, but like any quote unquote new technology, it's going to find its happy place, and it's going to be adopted more on a mainstream level and be utilized for a better use than just trendy related things. Although I see some really cool things that NFT technology is being utilized for right now. One is there is a movie coming out that is going to be offered through an NFT invite, and which is I kind of think that's kind of an interesting thing that I've been thinking of for the last couple of years. I know Alex Winter, who is most famously known from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He is an extremely smart businessman and technologist, and has been dabbling with this easily for about 10 years. One of his projects is he actually developed, produced, and distributed one of his projects using blockchain technology a few years ago. So he's totally ahead of the curve. And I think more and more people are going to do that now. I know there's a group out of Toronto that are using blockchain technology as an extension for music. So you have like MP3s, MP4s. There is a kind of like a blockchain related extension for music. I don't know where that's at right now, but I know that they've been utilizing it and talking about that for at least a year or two in my circle. And so I think it's super cool. Point of trivia, CryptoKitties, Bernie, who's originally from Calgary, actually created that and actually moved to Vancouver. And now they have offices and all around the world now. And he's been doing something similar to NFTs like 2 or 3 years ago. So again, Calgary, surprisingly, is quite ahead of the curve in a lot of things. My honest truth is that the sector is thriving and the people are extremely intelligent and visionary. The problem is at times the infrastructure is waning or not there, or the support's not there to actually get these companies scale to the next level and then move on. The only one that I know of that's really, really been successful in the last kind of like couple of months is Benevity. Benevity became a unicorn literally a couple of months ago, and I live like 20 blocks away from it. It's a microfinance giving program that was started many moons ago, and it was just bought out by, I can't remember the company now, but they're thriving and amazing, and literally in Bridgeland, like literally like 30 blocks away from me.
Art, why do people go to Calgary for business and tech specific? If I'm going to Calgary, if I say, hey, catch me next week because I'm on my way to Calgary to do what? What do people go and commonly, is it filmmaking? Is it XR? Is it fin? What do people ingress into your hood, your city for, and to do what?
That's a very interesting question. And I think it's individual to the person or company. Calgary, thankfully in the last year, has adopted a better tax incentive kind of like environment. Our cost of living is a third of Silicon Valley and a third of Vancouver. And surprisingly, a lot of Canadians that are in Silicon Valley or in Vancouver are, if you scratch them hard enough, you will find a Calgarian. Most people migrate to Silicon Valley or Vancouver from a tech point of view because that's where that world lives and they can go to the next level. What they're seeing though now is it's not sustainable. And I don't need to tell you it's not sustainable. You live there. And so people are coming back to Calgary, Alberta, Canada as a whole, because their lifestyle, their cost of living, their business operational costs are heck of a lot, cheaper and more manageable to actually do more with. So if you're an American company and you're doing something in Canada, you have that exchange rate. So obviously your money goes farther. I would also say that we have some really high level educated people doing some really next level stuff. Per capita, no, we are not at the same level as a San Francisco, an LA, a Vancouver, because we don't have the population. But per capita, in regards to skill set, I'd say we are at in certain little communities at the same rate or higher at times. Our issue, again, you wanted honesty because you know me, I'm an honest guy. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things, although I should be more politically savvy. But you know me, I say what I say. We need a change of mindset, and we need to be better at the implementation and the mentoring of our talent, and we need better education of our people to actually go to the next level. Because yes, we have a lot of people that are coming into Calgary to do things, but we should actually focus on the people that live here and give them opportunities for education and real world experience that they can actually grow their businesses and then expand and scale and on a global perspective.
A lot's been said, Art. With our final question, tell us, what's the most important thing that we should know about what you do?
My most important thing is authenticity, integrity, community, and utilizing technology for the good, so social good. Technology, again, is agnostic. It's how you utilize it that then gets dicey. I would like to see people using technology in a more beneficial way to help humanity instead of the stuff that we've seen recently. What comes to mind is the documentary Social Dilemma, Coded Bias, all those things that they utilizing technology to hinder, to fracture, to divide us. I want people to hear that we are all the same people. Can we actually work together instead of actually working against each other? So I guess that is my kind of modus operandi.
And so well received. Everyone, you've heard it here on the Christopher Lafayette podcast show. My friend, and someone that I definitely chop wood with, Art Proctor. Okay, we're out. Good night.